Alright guys, Better MMA is back. Thank you to everybody who has been supporting my Steve Urseg video recently. I very much appreciate it. Check out the video if you haven't watched it already. This video I want to talk about a couple of fights that are going to most likely get hidden away in the UFC 300 build-up and in the fight week and in the predictions. So I kind of wanted to make this sort of as like a prelude to the prediction videos, giving you a deeper dive on some of the fights that are not going to get the closest look because this is such a stacked card. These might not get the most detail and appreciation as they deserve. So I've picked 3 fights here that I'm going to be speaking about, giving a breakdown, prediction to, and giving my thoughts on the fight. But yeah, since the UFC this week is pretty weak, I'll be giving you guys my thoughts on these more interesting matchups. So jumping right into it, Deiveson Figueiredo versus Cody Garbrandt. Now, I think this is the perfect fight to get the event started. You're going to have 2 explosive, extremely fast punching strikers that are going to bang as your first fight of the night. I think it's the absolute perfect choice to get UFC 300 started. And when you think about it, I mean, we're getting UFC 300 started with 2 former champions. That is pretty. Of course, these guys aren't at the peak of their career. It's not like they just lost the belt or anything. But these guys, at the end of the day, are both former champions who have fought at extremely high levels. So the fact that we're getting this as a card opener, we should all be grateful. Looking at UFC 300, it is a stacked card. There's no way that we can really complain about it. We got essentially like a main event in every single fight of the night. Before I really get into the details of this matchup, one of the main reasons why I think this is such a good matchup by the matchmakers is simply because it is such a, and I'm predicting it will be a very competitive fight. We will see that these two are not very far away from each other in terms of the fights that they bring to their opponent and also the skill level that they bring to their opponent. I think we're going to see a very, very competitive fight here. But one of the first things that I want to get into, Deiveson Figueiredo is coming off of his win with Rob Font, which puts him at number 8 in the bantamweight division. So this is a very, very big opportunity for Cody No Love Garbrandt to get back into the bantamweight top 10 and to get himself some really good marquee matchups. Do I think that Cody Garbrandt has good chances of beating a lot of the guys in the top 10? No, I think especially once he gets towards the top 5, Cody Garbrandt starts to be massively outskilled by the bantamweight competition. But this is a very good matchup. First thing that I want to point out is that Deiveson Figueiredo is 36 years old, and Cody Garbrandt is only 32. So when you're thinking about it just in terms of who is closer to the end of their fighting career, you would have to say that Deiveson is closer to the end of his fighting career. Now, there's a few reasons why that factor is important, and I'll explain this once I get to the other points in the video. But mainly, Cody Garbrandt right now is 32 years old. So yes, has he gotten a lot of damage in his fighting career and to his brain? Yes. But is he physically in the prime of his life? Well, he should be. And in his Trevin Jones performance, he looked very, very agile, very, very fast. He came out with a very effervescent energy, a very strong energy, which captured Trevin Jones from the first 30 seconds. After he threw that sweep kick to Trevin Jones' lead leg, that ninja Tony Ferguson move, it essentially captured and put Trevin Jones in a trance from that moment on. And Cody Garbrandt essentially worked from the distance his kick to the body, his roundhouse kick to the body on Trevin Jones. Cody Garbrandt is an orthodox fighter. Trevin Jones is a southpaw fighter. So that rear leg roundhouse kick to the body was open for Cody Garbrandt to hit Trevin Jones with all day. And it was really beautiful to see Cody Garbrandt have that weapon so ready to go in his arsenal. It really reminded me a lot of Jorge Masvidal in the same way that Jorge Masvidal uses that kick. And it got me thinking that looking at their silhouettes, it is very similar, their style of fighting. They're both primarily boxing styled fighters. Primarily, they both throw hooks, and they both love to chamber and throw that rear leg roundhouse kick to the body. So I think that's the most comparable fighting style that you could compare Cody Garbrandt to. But this is one of the first problems and one of the first points that I want to get into about this fight is that Cody Garbrandt does not necessarily have the best jab. Now, Cody Garbrandt is fighting Deiveson, who likes to come out early in the round, put pressure on his opponent, have his hands low, but Deiveson does have an extremely strong lead hand and a very, very good jab. But the thing about his jab is that he does let himself hang out there a little too much. So you could see Cody Garbrandt countering over the top with a right hand. So other than age and Cody Garbrandt being the more spring chicken in this matchup, Cody Garbrandt is also bigger than Deiveson Figueiredo. And I think this is going to be a bigger factor than we realized in the past. We saw Deiveson do well against Rob Font, and the size difference wasn't really evident, mainly because Rob Font wasn't able to impose his size in the grappling. Cody Garbrandt, being a wrestler all throughout his growing up, he will use his wrestling base when Deiveson is starting to back him up against the fence, and when Deiveson throws that big right hand, there will be openings there for Cody Garbrandt to have a perfect entry and just, exactly like in the Trevin Jones fight, pick up Deiveson and dump him on the ground. Now, I want to speak to the weapons that Deiveson is going to bring to Cody, and so we can think about the fight in these terms. Deiveson is going to put the pressure on Cody. And I was I rewatched the Brian Kelleher, Cody Garbrandt's fight with Brian Kelleher, because Brian Kelleher is also an orthodox fighter, and Figueiredo is an orthodox fighter. So I wanted to see how Cody Garbrandt deals with an orthodox fighter in comparison to how he dealt with Trevin Jones, a southpaw. And if you see in his matchup with Kelleher, yes, the body kick is not there, so you're going to see a much more limited kicking game from Cody Garbrandt. So I see the biggest problem for Cody Garbrandt in this fight standing will most likely be the strong jab of Deiveson Figueiredo, as we've also seen that be a problem for Garbrandt in his Rob Font fight. He was getting tortured by the jab in that fight. And I also think the leg kicks, mainly from Deiveson Figueiredo throwing a rear leg kick to Garbrandt's legs, I think that is going to immobilize Garbrandt partially. So Garbrandt is going to have to do his best at timing those leg kicks, perhaps countering with a right hand or being able to check them or simply being able to move out of the way. He's going to have to move out of the way with his footwork. But we do not know Cody Garbrandt as a kicker, especially when he's fighting orthodox fighters. So Cody Garbrandt's arsenal is going to be very limited to his boxing combinations and then timing Deiveson for the takedown. Those are going to be his main weapons in this fight. And my concern is that Cody is going to draw in Deiveson as he likes to draw in his opponents. His entire fight with Trevin Jones, it was mainly seemed like a boring fight because Cody was trying to draw Trevin into his power. He drew Brian Kelleher into his power, and Brian Kelleher ended up getting knocked out in the first round. Deiveson Figueiredo, being 36 years old, moving up to this new weight class where he hasn't been his entire career. So I think his size disadvantage and his speed differential from when he was at flyweight, it is going to start to show against such a fast striker like Cody Garbrandt. So it's a very funny pick because I think Deiveson has more weapons. What I'm most afraid of for Cody Garbrandt in this fight is getting guillotined by Deiveson Figueiredo. Being guillotined by Deiveson Figueiredo, or simply being hit with the jab and then trying to reply with a right hand, and then Deiveson throwing his right hand and clipping Cody. We cannot, it's hard to ever feel confident about Cody trading right hands in the pocket ever. So you have to be afraid about that. Deiveson also has these very nice lead elbows that he throws. In this case, with Garbrandt being the larger fighter, Cody will most likely like to bounce on the outside in this fight and draw Deiveson in. It's hard for me to imagine Deiveson closing that distance with those elbows and being able to land them on Cody without getting countered. Deiveson has a much better jab than Cody. But I do think Cody will have the slight speed advantage, and I do think he has the wrestling advantage, and I do think Cody will be composed enough to where if he is in a scrambling situation on the ground, that he will be able to get out of it. So I'm going to be picking Cody Garbrandt by 3-round decision, or I could see him clipping Deiveson with a right hand, similar to the way he knocks out Brian Kelleher. So yeah, I mean, I see Cody Garbrandt being able to pull out a 3-round decision here. Perhaps he is able to clip Deiveson Figueiredo, but I don't really see Deiveson knocking out Cody Garbrandt here. Maybe maybe that's a bad pick for me to put that out there. Maybe that's a hot take, but the fight will prove that. And I think this is sort of this is why I wanted to make this video, because in a weird way, Cody Garbrandt's striking defense and his speed on the feet and his head movement are going to be the exact factors which are going to keep him from getting knocked out and being able to win this fight. I see Figueiredo having a better chance of submitting Garbrandt more than anything. If he's able to, like I said, get Garbrandt in a guillotine when Garbrandt is going for a takedown, or if he's able to go for a heel hook. Those are the most likely possibilities. But yeah, moving on, Bo Nickel versus Cody Brundage. Now, everybody is rightfully upset that Bo Nickel is getting his place on the UFC 300 card, the main card, I should say. And is it messed up that he's over Aljamain Sterling, Calvin Kattar, Jiri Prochazka, Alexander Rakic, and you could even argue Deiveson Figueiredo and Cody Garbrandt? Does it make sense for him to be placed above these fighters? No. But when you're thinking in terms of building holistic entertainment for UFC 300, I think they've done their best here to place the fights on the early prelims and the prelims so that each respective card, from early prelims to main card, will be an amazing card within themselves. And I'm expecting that's what UFC 300 will be, simply because of how high level all of the fights are. So can I really be mad at the UFC for simply being strategic and putting one of their young up-and-coming fighters that they're trying to build on the main card of the biggest pay-per-view of the year? can I really call the UFC crazy? I mean, it's one thing to be a it's one thing to call out what is obviously a sales tactic of Bo Nickel. They're trying to sell Bo Nickel to the public. But what is wrong with that? When the guy is a multiple-time national wrestling champion, he has a very strong grassroots appreciation and fan base all throughout the United States, throughout the wrestling circuit. Why, in what world is it a bad marketing move for the UFC to put such homegrown American talent on the main card of the biggest card of the year, and perhaps the biggest card in company history up until now? Well, is he even ranked? No, he's not even ranked. And he is fighting a guy who's also unranked. But at the end of the day, guys, this fight is for the exhibition of Bo Nickel's skills. And I think Cody Brundage will actually give Bo Nickel more of a scrappy fight than he's at least seen so far. I don't think he's going to get knocked out in the first minute like Val Woodburn did. All respect to Val Woodburn and for how late he stepped in to take that fight. So I do think we're going to see Bo Nickel in the cage for the longest amount of time that we've seen him. Cody Brundage is 29. Bo Nickel is 28. They are both around the same height, with Bo Nickel having a slight reach advantage. At the end of the day, I think this is just going to be a showcase for Bo Nickel. I really respect Bo Nickel's skills in his striking. He's taught by Coach Barry Robinson, who I think is one of the best striking boxing coaches in MMA and boxing. So I'm really glad to see Bo Nickel working with somebody so intelligent and somebody so forward-thinking in the striking department, where he could very easily just make the easy, obvious move and say, oh, I'm a wrestler, I need to learn striking, I need to go to Thailand. But he's choosing to learn striking at such a higher, more abstract level that it's meshed his wrestling and striking so seamlessly that I think it's made him a very, very dangerous mixed martial arts fighter. Whereas if he was to go spend, a few years in Thailand to get Bangkok ready, and he's going to get to the UFC and he's not going to know how to mix his Muay Thai style with his wrestling base. It's going to be, he's not exactly going to have the glue to mix those things together in terms of his style. His stance is going to be split between whether he's going to be doing a Muay Thai stance or a wrestling stance. So I think he's chosen a very, very mature striking coach to be with. Cody Durden, though, has got heavy hands. And he does like to swang and bang. And he does have decent takedown defense. Honestly, Cody Brundage is a dangerous fight. Yes, he's coming off a first-round knockout. So yeah, I think Cody Brundage is going to get ragdolled in this fight, to be honest. Bo Nickel is going to be bouncing in and out as he did against Val Woodburn. He's going to be faking the shot. It's going to be disguising his punches. He's going to hurt Cody Durden. At some point, take Cody Durden to the ground, and I think submit Cody Durden. So I'm looking at a first-round submission for Bo Nickel in this fight. And then the third fight that I want to talk about in this video, which I think is not getting the most attention because it feels like it's been rushed. And this is the Alex Pereira, the main event. Alex Pereira versus Jamal Hill. I think Jamal Hill is really going to show us what a great mixed martial arts fighter he is. And what I mean by that is I don't think he's going to wrestle, because he's made it very explicitly clear to all of us that he has no interest in wrestling, which I have all the respect for, and this is why I love Jamal Hill as champion. First off, this is the reason why UFC 300 isn't getting as much respect as it deserves. And this is also the same shit that UFC pulled at UFC 200 and what ruined UFC 200. Okay? Yeah, you guys got Brock Lesnar at UFC 200 or whatever, but you also got Miesha Tate Nunes as your title fight. There was so many rushed fights on that card. Thankfully, they did a very good job at planning this time around, and you have to give your hats off to UFC, but it was with the main event that they rushed that gave everybody this, it's like when you're watching gymnastics and you're watching the girl do her routine and she's doing all of her flips and she's going all the way up in the air and it looks great, and then when she comes down to the end, she's got to do her landing and then she just stumbles just a little bit, you know, and that's kind of what the UFC did here. Look, am I complaining? No. But it was just the way that they went about it that kind of gave everybody this uneasy feeling. You know, Uncle Dana is driving the car too recklessly. But getting into this matchup, you got to give respect to Jamal Hill. Coming off of injury, you know, stepping up to be the main man. And I think there are a lot of people who are instantly counting him out. Because you say, okay, well, they're going to have a kickboxing match, so you have to go with Pereira. Now, you're not illogical for thinking that. It's certainly logical to think that way. But thinking that quickly in terms of MMA, it leaves out a lot that needs to be discussed. And this is exactly what happened in the Strickland Adesanya build-up, where everybody said, well, Strickland's going to stand and they're going to have a kickboxing fight. We all know who the better kickboxer is. We know how this is going to go. So, Alex Pereira, of course, is the more decorated, talented kickboxer. I really like Alex Pereira's kickboxing coach. I think he is very, very good for the MMA game in terms of teaching pull counters in the kickboxing MMA context. It is exactly what led to Alex Pereira being able to knock out Jiri Prochazka in their fight. His ability to teach his fighters how to throw their combinations and then defend, and then go about throwing their combinations and defending, you know, is very, very high level, and it is very great to see this advancing the MMA game. Now, Jamal Hill is very good at defending himself after his punches as well. I was just watching his Johnny Walker fight and his Glover Teixeira fight. He does a very good job at exiting the pocket and defending himself after he throws. So he's not going to be as open as I think we're all imagining him to be. I don't think this is going to be a Sean Strickland sort of fight for Alex Pereira. I see this fight going into at least the second or third round. Now, these boys are banging. And I know that Jamal Hill likes to walk forward. But Jamal Hill does not walk forward in the same ways in which Jiri Prochazka does. Jamal Hill is a lot more measured in his stance. You know, he's a lot more balanced with his footwork and when he's moving in. So when he does let go of those punches, he really does like to plant down and sit down on them. And it leads to a lot of these power shots that are very, very hard hitting on the end of his punches. Whereas Jiri Prochazka is more of the lunging in sort of striker that sort of wants to hit you in the middle of his punch, where Jamal likes to sit on his punches from distance and hit you at the end of his punches. Jiri would sort of like to hit you where his arm isn't fully extended, and then once he's hitting you, then his arm fully extends. So in this fight where Jamal and Alex have essentially the identical height and reach, I wonder if we're going to see any discrepancies once they actually do face off, if there is a height or reach advantage one way or the other. Alex typically likes to fight in a closer distance than Jamal. So I think what will be very interesting to see is how Jamal Hill is going to be fighting on his back foot. Because I think Alex will like to walk forward in this fight, Alex will start the fight walking forward, and Jamal is going to be looking for counters as Pereira moves in. And I think that is the most successful game plan for Jamal in this fight, would be to lay back at distance and to counter. I think if Jamal comes out egotistical, that everybody's doubting him and thinking that Alex Pereira is going to knock him out and that he's got to go out there and walk Alex down and put the hands on him and knock him out. If he comes out there like that, over aggressive, then Jamal is going to get knocked out. But I see Jamal being smart coming off of injury here, and he's going to be patient in this fight. And I think we're going to see Jamal Hill knocking out Alex Pereira. I think we all have this invincible image of Alex Pereira in our minds. I have to admit to this somewhat myself, but I think Jamal Hill has a very good chance to win here. You know, Jamal Hill is 32, Alex Pereira is 36. So I think when it comes fight night, and when Jamal is putting the hands on Alex Pereira, and we're seeing Alex Pereira getting rocked, and Alex Pereira goes out, the guy's 36. You know, let's not be so surprised. He's been knocked out. I also don't like that Alex is planning to go to UFC 301, or that's his hope. Whenever a fighter is sort of looking past or looking to the future beyond the fight in front of them, it has to be concerning, because you can't say that you are 100% present and thinking about the task at hand if you are thinking about and hoping to go to 301. I mean, I'm not in Poetan's brain, you know, that stonehead dude. You know, maybe he just thinks differently than the rest of us, and maybe he's able to just separate those two things. And, you know, that could be a perfect reality. But I think this just really reads as a hungry Jamal Hill coming in off of injury. And you always know Jamal Hill's got a chip on his shoulder looking to scrap, man. You know he's going to bring some nasty punches. And Alex Pereira, yeah, he's great. But think about it, guys. What is Alex Pereira's legacy really going to be? Is he going to be a long-time reigning light heavyweight champion? Or is he going to be the two-division glory kickboxer that wasn't here for a long time, but was here for a good time? I think Alex Pereira is not going to be here for a long time, but he's here for a good time. And if he headlines UFC 300, saving the card when it needed a main event, and he fights Jamal Hill, former champion, who defeated his mentor Glover Teixeira, I mean, it's such a valiant fight. If he gets knocked out, I think it would be a perfect way for Pereira to retire. Nothing but respect for him. The man is going to be turning 37 soon. You know, let him ride off into the sunset. So I'm going to be going with Jamal Hill in this fight. Yeah, guys, let me know what you thought in the comments below. Thanks for everybody liking the videos and commenting on the videos. Let me know what you think about these guys. What are you thinking? What are your takes? What do you think is going to happen at UFC 300? Thank you guys so much for watching. Better MMA, out.